Hey guys, good afternoon. I Martin, I don't know what's going on, man, but it's like you're playing little league baseball and all the other guys are now in the big leagues when it comes to competing about who's around first. So first David was picking on you, now Robert. Robert Robert was around early. How you doing? Tom, good to see you. Thanks for joining. RC dude, hello. Jim, glad you could make it. Hey, everybody, blame Jim. This is Jim's fault. This was his idea. So we all get to blame Jim. We'll pick on him on Discord later after the thing. So he'll hop in there and we'll just pick on him there. Ken, good afternoon. 12 Dob Gaming, hello. Pilot Jerry, hello. Glad you guys can make it. Can everyone hear me okay? Is it too loud? It looks like I'm bursting a little bit. So, hey, just FYI, I've created a whole new like arrangement and layout for this type of session. God, I can't wait. Present Mysticata. That was a great series, man. Great series. What was his name? Barbarino? Was that it? Hey, Wolfie, how you doing? Okay, so anyway, yeah, so new, completely new, and it does look like I'm bursting a little bit. So give me a second. It looks like I'm blowing it out here. I just have to. I'm making adjustments because it's a brand new layout, and I want to make sure that I'm not blowing you guys out. Okay, so here's what I had in mind today. The first thing I wanted to do, first off, I want you guys to be able to ask questions. You know, that's the whole nature of this type of thing, is for you guys to be able to come in and ask some questions. But I also want to make sure that we keep it moving. So what I want to be careful about is getting too far into rabbit holes. So what I mean by that is, if you go out and look at some of the OpenTx configurations that are out there, and I've got some on my very own radio, they can be ridiculous, right? Now, I don't want to get into like building out complex configurations today. What I'm really thinking about doing are basic techniques. You know, how do you do a mix? What's the difference between global variables or global functions and special functions? That one comes up a ton. Maybe basic navigation issues. How do you get around? What do these different things on the radio mean? That kind of stuff. That's kind of what I have in mind. I don't want to necessarily constrain it, but what I don't want to do is try and solve complex configuration issues in a live stream, because that's just going to be boring for everybody. And just so you guys know, when I make configurations on my radio, for the basic stuff, I can hammer through it pretty quick. But you know, if you start getting into complex things like using global variables to adjust trims and do dynamic rates and things like that, it takes time. You know, I have to sit there and kind of tinker with it, and I don't think that would be fun to watch. So I would just ask you guys as we go through this to try and keep that in mind. Let's try and avoid getting into the complex configuration stuff and maybe stick to things that can be answered and keep a tempo. I think you guys hopefully understand where I'm going with that. And then if you guys do have some complex configuration stuff that you want to get into, Discord, that's the best way to do it, is get on Discord, because we can do that in our own time, and that won't bore everybody that's watching. So I thought I'd start out today by spending a little time in a I'm sitting here having a whole conversation with myself because we lost audio. I told you, new scenario. Give me a moment. I'm gonna add the mic to this scene. 1 second. Oh boy, man, I just covered a lot of ground talking to myself. I'm really sorry about that, guys. All right, I told you, new scene set up, and I forgot to add my microphone to this one. So yeah, that was awesome. Anyway, let me scroll back up and take some of these questions. Night Nav says, what about companion use questions? Total fair ball. We can do that. Jim says, I just go back later and pick out the ones that are too complex and cover them in a snippet. Yeah, we can do that. That's a good idea, Jim. I just want to make sure that we understand that my intention is to keep the video moving today. I don't want to get too slow. Tom says, can you change the sensitivity on the TX16S scroll wheel? Not in software, Tom, but what a lot of guys do is they'll take the radio apart and they'll take the scroll wheel out, and right under the scroll wheel, they'll put a piece of fuzzy Velcro. So you can put a piece of fuzzy Velcro on there, and that helps with the skipping issue that you're describing. So try that out. And there's definitely some tips on Discord about that, and some pictures too. So Hank says, I've been using OpenTX for about a year now, but I'm only just starting to really dig in. Yeah, that's the way it goes. I mean, I that's one of the things that comes up on OpenTX for me quite a bit is people will say, man, dude, I don't want to do all that stuff for my plane. And the funny thing is you can make a plane configuration with 7 clicks, and you can build a plane configuration. It's really easy to do. You don't have to do all the fancy stuff, but OpenTX allows you to do fancy stuff if you want to. And that's one of the points I seem to have a very hard time getting across for people, is that you don't have to go do crazy things, but you can if you want to have fun. Okay, Ben. So Jim says, yeah, Jim, I got it. Yeah, I think we covered the audio. No sound. What happened? Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I apologize for the audio thing. Like I said, I got a new layout and just for this type of desktop oriented stuff. And yeah, we might have a few bugs today. I'll try and keep the chat window visible, so in case anything comes up, I can respond. Brandon's Baked Beans. Yeah, we're going to spend a little time on OpenTX. And let's see. Volume, say something. We can't hear you. Is it over? No sound. Yep, lot of, yeah, you guys are on it on the sound. Again, sorry about that. All right. Okay, so I started talking when I went dead. I brought this screen up and I wanted to show you guys, I wanted to give you some OpenTX resources. I will put these links are already in the description. So the first one is the downloads page. If you're not familiar with it, this is where you get firmware, companion, and the SD card contents. Those are really the 3. You actually don't get the firmware here. You get companion and the SD card contents. They talk about the firmware here, but if you want the firmware, you normally download that through companion. So I'll put a link. Actually, the link's already in the description. This is a good website to be familiar with. One of the big ones is the SD card content. I get this question all the time. People will upgrade their radio and they'll come in and say, hey, my radio's complaining about something about the SD card. And this is where you get that. You got to get the SD card content. When you click on this, it'll show you all the radios available in that particular release. So if, say, you're on a TX16S, you can click here, and I always just grab the latest one. So just wanted to make sure you knew about that one. It's good to know where the downloads are. And this is also where you get companion. So if you don't have companion, you'll hear me talk about that a lot. You'll need companion eventually following my videos, because I do like to do the work in companion, just because it's a lot easier to navigate than pressing buttons and scroll dials on the radio. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to check contents or questions or chat real quick. I'm waiting for my TX16. Ken, yeah, you'll have fun with it, man. It's a fun radio. How do you set up a total timer from when you turn your radio on until you turn it off? There isn't one that's system-wide. Every timer that I'm aware of is model-specific 12-DOB gaming, so I don't think you can do a system-wide. Now, if you only have one model, you could do it, but I'm not aware of one that's system-wide. Maybe there might be one in Global Functions. We can take a look. Little one-on-one Radio Master made a multi-rotor wizard. Not too bad. Oh, good. Yeah. But you know, that's another question I get all the time is on the wizards. And I got to be honest with you guys. I hate those wizards. When I make a model on the radio, if I'm starting from scratch, which is very rare for me at this point, I just hit new model, and as soon as that wizard pops up, I hit escape, and it makes a basic model for you. In fact, we can look on the radio. I'll show you. All right. One of the recent updates last year fixed DSMX issues of binding, but the servo pulses were still sent at 22. Do I need to rebind to get 11? Not sure, Brandon Baked Beans. Try. I mean, that's all you can do is try. You'll find out when you get to know me and the channel. I don't do much in terms of Spectrum. My personal belief is Spectrum's way overpriced, and you can get much more capable equipment for less money. With the one maybe exception being some of the stabilized stuff, if all you want is a stabilizer. But frankly, I can get a full-on flight computer for half the price that you can buy a stabilizer on Spectrum. So I just don't buy Spectrum. Are sliders or knob upgrades available on the TX16S? Not from Radio Master, but yes, you can go out to Mauser and DigiKey, and if you go Google Alps slider TX16S, you'll find the part number. In fact, I did an upgrade, but got to be honest with you, diggers, it wasn't much of an upgrade. All right. Do you merge the SD card? So Jeff, that's a good question. Personally, I've never been a fan of doing the merge. I've never really liked that. I'm a computer guy, and to me, that's always an area where you leave yourself vulnerable for fragments and leftovers and things that shouldn't be around. So I personally believe the correct way to do it is to erase and then re-add and re-unpack. However, for the sake of simplicity on my videos, I do just show dragging over. But personally, if it's my radio, I'll definitely delete. But you know, I back my stuff up. I know how to re-add my models file. I know how to add my images. I know how to add my sounds. If I make videos for that and I miss one little thing, I catch hell for it. So I'm careful about that one. But yeah, I personally like to delete and re-add. All right. How do you do a timer going up? You just start it with 0. You just start it with 0. You don't put a value in. You just leave it at 0 and add a source, and it'll start ticking up when you use it. I do my perpetual timers that way. All right. Let's see. I'd like to have different sounds than turning on my radio and different wallpaper. Is that hard to do? Nope. I've got a video on the wallpaper. Check the channel, Boba Fett. There's a video out there on how to create splash screens. In fact, I add some splash screens on rcvideoreviews.com that you can download. And by the way, a little plug for my patreon.com crew. If you're a patron, I'll make you a splash screen. So there's a standing offer for patrons if you want a splash screen. I've made a couple for folks. But yeah, changing the wallpaper is very easy. It's just, you go into your images folder, and I think it's actually called wallpaper. And then you go, wait a minute. No, your wallpaper is in your themes directory. So you go into themes and whatever default or blue or whatever you're using, and you change the wallpaper. The splash screen is in your images directory, which is kind of weird, but that's the way they do it. Okay. Another quick one I wanted to show you guys. Take a look at your screen and look at the browser. This is another one. I get these questions all the time. People come in and they're like, when will this one be dropped? When will this be released? And the answer is we don't know. So I wanted to show you the milestones page. If you just Google OpenTx milestones, you'll find it. But there's a link where you can look and see where they are in terms of progress. So 2.3.12, that's the next release in the 2.3 branch, and that is 68% complete. 2.4, that's the first one that's going to be including the touchscreen. So that one is 73%, and that's actually been moving forward. The last time I looked, it was 54. So they're actually making progress on this one. And then there's a 2.3.x, and I'm not sure what that is, but I think maybe they're saying that's the end of line for this one. So there's a couple more releases planned in 2.3 is what I think. So if you ever want to know about what's going on with a particular release in OpenTx, go to the milestones page. This is where I find this information. And the other thing I'll tell you in terms of predicting time, the answer to that, as far as I'm concerned, is always no. You might be able to get some inside information at RC groups if you follow, I think his nick is 3DJC or 3DJRC and Kilra. Those two guys, they're the ones that know. You might be able to get some information, but honestly, it's open source. They work at their pace. So we always just wait for them to get their thing done. All right. I'm going to check comments real quick. In Companion Telemetry Simulator, what's the purpose of the first column? We'll get there in a minute, Night Nav. When I go to Companion, bring that up again, okay? Custom audio sounds and alarm is my favorite custom edition. Yeah, I just did a video on installing Amber, so if you haven't seen that, make sure you check that out. See, there you go. Jeff is asking, when are we getting the touchscreen UI in OpenTx? So the user interface, I think, is pretty much done. If you pay attention to the way they've arranged the graphical controls on the color screens, I think the UI is there. But here you can see OpenTx 2.4. It was updated. Last update was 13 days ago, and they're 73% complete. That's all we know. That's all we know. All right. I've had 2 issues in Companion. Oyvind, we'll get to those in just a moment. All right. Lost audio again. I don't think we lost audio. We still have audio, guys? Yeah, I don't think that's me. Okay, so that's the other one, the milestones page, and I've got just a couple more little resources I want to show you. This is the multi-protocol. Yeah, okay, thanks for confirming, Dave. This is the multi-protocol firmware download page. So this is another one that I get quite a bit. If guys go and update their OpenTx firmware, frequently the firmware will suggest a multi-protocol module upgrade as well. So this isn't something that we used to really worry about when we had just one chip in the radio, but they do make updates to the multi-module. So it's a good idea to come and take a look at this page and learn how to use it. So if you're using a Radio Master, for example, you can come and select the firmware that you want, the module type that you have. So for example, if you have the SE edition, you might just need the CC2500. But for everyone else on the TX16S, it's jumper 4-in-1, or sorry, the STM 4-in-1. And then they'll give you a link for that multi-protocol module. And to flash your firmware, all you do is you grab this link down here at the bottom, you pick the one that you want. And so I use, let's see, radio type. I don't think we need that. I'm looking for channel order. There you go. AETR. So for me, I would always pick serial AETR 1.3.2.12.bin. And you install that, you copy that onto your SD card. You can actually flash this one from within the radio. So you can go into your system settings and hit your SD card up, go in your firmware directory, and you can flash your NPM from right from within OpenTx. You don't even need to go into the bootloader. So this is just another resource. If you see a flashing error message on your screen about your firmware after you upgrade OpenTx, this is probably what they're talking about. So this is a good link to know about, so you can figure out where to get firmware updates for your multi-module. And then one last one. This is the biggest one. You guys all need to go and bookmark this page, because this is got to be the single, hands down, #1 question I get on the 4-in-1 radios. And that's, does it support XYZ? And all I do is go to the protocol, because I can't remember. Look at this list. You know, DSM, they've got 2_1, DSM2_2F, DSMX_1F, _2F, and auto. I can't remember all this stuff, man. I barely remember how to get home. So, I can't remember all this stuff. There's not a chance. I get asked about Fly Sky. I get asked about Fursky, Free Sky, about Free Sky X2, about Free Sky RX, about Futaba. You guys got to bookmark this page, man, and go learn to use this. Just go look at it and say, okay, what's going on here? If I'm trying to bind my radio, what's going on? So you can come in here and take a look and say, okay, what's Free Sky X? And when you click on that, you can see all the different options and what regions they're supported in on this page. It'll tell you everything. Yeah, the link's already in the description. But this will give you everything you need to know about the protocols. So this is where you guys have to go. You gotta bookmark this one. And I'm just gonna ask all, especially you regulars, like Jim and Martin, you guys are regulars, keep an eye out. And when you see people asking questions about this, just post the link. You don't even have to answer and say, if you don't know, just say, hey, all the protocol information's here. But we got to get this one out there a little bit more, because this is kind of like a self-help. I'm trying to help people help themselves here, because it's just amazing to me how many people don't know about this. But there's no way I can remember it all. So when I get these questions, I come back and refer to this, and I try and answer, and I always provide the link back. So it's a good one to be able to bookmark and keep handy. Okay, that's it for that. Let's go back to the desktop, and I'm going to check the questions again, or the comments, and see what's going on real quick here. So give me just a moment. When are we getting a touchscreen? We covered that. 2 issues with companion, lost audio. I can't find the right sensor and the right use of that sensor. Okay, well, maybe we'll try and tackle that one. Maybe not. Will the TX16S work with Spectrum forward programming? Don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. It's looks like ArchiX Writer. I don't know if it'll work with forward programming. I thought it did, but I'm not sure. Again, I'm not a Spectrum guy, guys. I don't own the first piece of Spectrum equipment. The closest thing I have to Spectrum is a Lemon receiver that runs DSM. That's it. That's as close to Spectrum as I get. Boba Fett 505 says, thank you. I was going to download it. Seemed like a lot of different downloads came up for yeah, you gotta, if you're referring to the multi-protocol firmware, it's a good idea to go just spend a little time, just look at it, do a little reading. You'll figure it out pretty fast. It's not that hard. What's a good theme to aid in sunlit screen reading? I like the red one. I think everything else out in the sun is the wrong color. So I live in Florida, and I've spent a lot of time flying outside over the summer with this radio, and the red theme was fine. It did fine. I used your walkthrough to bling my TX16S. Thank you. Would have been a challenge without that. You're welcome, Jeff. Glad it helped. Yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. You just take your time and keep your parts organized, and that's it. Okay. I asked if they could put an image up alongside each protocol so you could match a plane better, but Pascal said he could. Yeah, Jim. Yeah, they're all volunteers, man. They're not going to do that stuff. They're going to rely on people to do a little bit of reading, a little bit of reading. Dooley, glad you made it. Oh, Jay, I saw you earlier too. I'm glad you made it too. Yeah, you're a little late, but we didn't give anything away, so you're okay. Sean says my bootloader version doesn't match my OpenTX version. That's okay, Sean. You generally don't. I don't think I've ever upgraded a bootloader. I'm not afraid to do it. I wouldn't have any fear doing it, but I've never bothered with it. Every bootloader I've ever had was able to get me into a mode where I could write firmware, so it was never been an issue for me. They should copy it and keep it with a 4-in-1 module or transmitter. Okay, yeah, I guess you're referring to the link, maybe. William, this old airplane guy, appreciates all this information. Well, good, William. I'm glad you do. Radio works fine, but bootloader isn't matching. That's okay. It doesn't matter if the bootloader doesn't match. And you guys, that's another thing I want to tell you about too. When it comes to firmware, make choices. That's one thing I see people get wrapped up all the time is that they'll see, oh, firmware dropped. I have to do stuff like that because I'm a channel. If I don't show you, someone else is gonna, and I want your view, right? So I got to do the upgrades, but you don't have to do that. In fact, I would strongly advise when a new version of OpenTX comes out, just stop, take a deep breath, go fly your airplane, and wait for a few days. Just wait and see what happens. Read the forums, check here, wait, because if they introduce some new problem, that's the last thing you need is to be the guinea pig that found it. So I would just wait. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 radios. So when they have a new firmware drop, I'll put it on one and, check it out and try it. But I go fly with the other one. So my advice to you guys is just don't get firmware crazy when it comes to OpenTX. I have a lot of faith in the OpenTX developers, but if there are bugs, let some other poor fool find them. You keep your plane in the air, fly what you have, and let other people figure out what the bugs are. So best advice I can give you on flashing firmware for any of your plane electronics is don't be in too much of a hurry to do it. Just wait for a day or two. Yeah, sorry, Jay, about the sound. We kind of beat that to death. Updating firmware of multi-module from card menu is going okay, but when doing that from bootloader, I get a message like it's not a valid firmware. Just do it from inside the radio. That's the other one. We don't have to get crazy about it. Just, all you got to do is press system, go into here. Come on, radio. Oh, I have it connected. That's why. Let me unplug it. So just press system, go over to your SD card, firmware, and if you see it in here, the one you want, you just long press it and hit flash firmware right there, flash internal multi, and you're done. And don't worry about it. You don't have to do it from the external bootloader. It's fine. You can do it on the multi-protocol module. You can do it right there. Not going to hurt anything. In fact, if you didn't know it, you can also flash receivers. I put a video on the channel about that too, but if you have a FreeSky receiver, you can connect it to the back on the jack right there in the bay, and you can flash your FreeSky receivers right from your radio. There's a video on the channel about it if you need to do that. I'm an IT engineer, so I never update firmware immediately, let someone else trouble. That's right, man. Hank's on it, dude. You're exactly right. You let other people figure out what's going on. Digger says, can you show occasional examples of what an EEPROM file would look like when you've created an example? We don't do EEPROMs anymore with TX16S. That's a leftover from Tyrannus days. So we don't do EEPROM files. What you do now, here, let me flip over. I'll flip over. So this is where this starts. Aha, I tried to get me, but I didn't fall for it this time. I added my mic to this scene. So this is where this gets really cool, is that we have the ability now to whoops, I don't want that. Hold on one second. Oh, it's going to move the whole screen on me, huh? Lock, there we go. Okay. So now we have the ability to share information on the screen. So the question was EEPROM files. So we used to do EEPROM files, but we don't do that anymore. So what you wind up with are documents. So you have this document right here. And what I would do, if you guys wanted one of my model configurations, for example, I would hit right click on this and I would hit copy. And then I would click on File, New, and then there's a category, whatever. And then I would just paste that in there. And then I would save this document and send it to you. And you can open the document in an OpenTx. And then if you want to use this in yours, you just drag it over to your airplane or your model file, and you just let it rip, and it would make a copy like that for you. So that's how we do it these days. All right, I'm going to close this. I don't want to save that. Discard. Discard. And then I'll get this back open. Okay. Can you show? Okay, so I think we covered the EEPROM thing. We already talked about Hank, who suggested, yeah, Hank's with me, guys. He's on my team here. He says, don't go crazy updating your firmware. Just chill out a little bit. Let other people figure it out. 62 watching, 27 likes. Yeah, that's right, Robert. Thank you. Robert's our he's our vote whip. So he keeps reminding people to make sure you hit that like button. That is very helpful, by the way. If you can hit like, and if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Leave a comment. Check the community tab. We're playing a little game with YouTube right now, but yeah, all the interactions you guys can do with the video is very helpful. So, all right, I wanted to do another thing. So this is Jim again, he came up with this kind of idea that, hey, we need to have the ability. Why isn't this closing? Oh, I know why it's not closing. Jim thought we needed to have the ability to spend a little time looking at Companion, looking at the radio together. And that's how I've set this up. So I have the radio here, and I can add that or subtract it. So I'm mainly going to be focused on Companion for the next couple minutes. But what I'm going to do right now is plug the radio in, and I'm going to bring in the models. And I wanted to do something with you guys real quick, because this is another one. This is going to be a snippet. And what I will probably do is I will probably take this live video and carve out what I'm about to show you and make it into a snippet. So I did want to walk through this one real quick with you, because this is another one of the ones that I've had on my snippet list. And I get asked this one. It's an amazing amount of times how often I get asked this question. And that's, how do I mix an elevator with flaps so that if I deploy my flaps, my elevator makes an adjustment? Now, personally, for me, I don't like that. So, don't come in comments after the fact and go, well, you should learn to fly the plane. I don't care. So when I do these videos like this, and when I show a technique, I'm not being judgmental about how you use them, just like I'm not judgmental about trim. If you want to use trim, go ahead. If you don't want to use trim, don't. There's a lot of people that are very dogmatic about such things. I'm not one of them, and personally, I don't like that. So for myself, I don't like to use mixes for really anything on my plane. The only time I've ever actually used a mix in flight was when I was trying to figure out what was going on with knife edge coupling on one of my little 3D planes. So I made a mix for my elevator to fool around with it to see if I could correct the coupling with a slider, okay? But the thing is, I'm not judgmental about it. If you want to use a mix, by all means, go ahead. It's a free world. Do what you want, do what makes you happy. But I get asked this question on the elevator and flat mix all the time. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it. And while I'm in here, I thought we could spend a few minutes in Companion and you guys can see how I use Companion to test things, and you'll get a feel if you've never used it before on what it can do for you. Okay, so all I've done is I've connected my radio to Companion, and I already have an example on the radio on how this works. I call it EleFlap, okay? So I'm going to open this model, and right away I'm going to go right to the mix tab. The input tab, it's just basic 4 channels, but on the mix tab, that's where the magic happens. So what I want to point out here is that I've got 1 channel for aileron. I've got channel 2 for my elevator, and you notice a mix line in there, right? Channel 3 is throttle, rudder. I have a second aileron. I'll be doing a snippet video on spoilerons later. That'll be another one that I'll do separate from today, but the final channel is flaps. So what I want to do first is show you flaps, okay? So on channel 6, I've got LS, that's the left slider. That is my flaps, and I'm using a weight of 50 and an offset of -50. Let me show you what that looks like in the simulator. So we're going to look at radio outputs, and I use radio outputs all the time when I'm doing these examples. So you remember my flaps are on channel 5. I'm going to take my left slider, which is up right now, and I'm going to, oh, sorry, my flaps are on 6. I apologize. So I'm going to bring the flaps all the way down. Okay, so you see channel 6 going all the way down right there. I'm looking, if you can't see my mouse, I'm over here. This is where I'm looking on channel 6. We're looking for this slider to move down as this visual slider to move down as I move my slider on the radio, okay? So I'm going to move the left slider down. Those are flaps, okay? I think you guys can understand that, right? We're moving the flaps down. Oops, hey, Windows likes to maximize if you put stuff up top. Okay, so I'm going to move my slider down. There are my flaps, okay? The other thing I want to show you is the elevator. So I'm going to grab my elevator and watch channel 2. I always put my elevator on channel 2. And I'm going to move my elevator as if I'm pitching down. Okay, so look what happens on channel 2 when I pitch down. When I pitch down, this servo output goes up towards 100%. Okay, so now with that in mind, you guys, I think everyone probably understands what you just saw, hopefully. If not, ask a question. I'll stop, but ask the question. Now I want to show you the mix. And this is another one of those give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man a fish, you feed him for a lifetime concepts. The memory device I'm going to ask you guys to remember is that when I'm creating mixes, there are 2 things that I keep in mind. The first one is that I prefer for my combined mix to add up to 100% of travel. Okay, that's my first preference. And then my second preference, or my second memory device, is that I always look at the thing that I want to mix and the thing that I want to mix it with. So if you're out flying around, you deploy your flaps, the thing that you say is you say, hey, I need my elevator to go down when my flaps go down. So the thing that you want to mix is your elevator, okay? So if you look at this mix line, channel 2 is the elevator. So we have an elevator weight of 100%. That's normal. That's normal. That's just like any other control on the radio. Don't let the second line bother you. Just look at the first line. That's normal. We have an elevator weight of 100. Okay. Now the second thing we're going to look at, that the elevator is the thing we want to mix. The thing that's going to mix it is the thing that's creating the impact. So in your case, in the case of people who are deploying flaps and they want up elevator, the thing that's creating the problem is flaps. So we're going to add flaps to the elevator. Okay. That's the way the mix works in OpenTx. So I'm going to show you what this line looks like. I'm using just a -10 and a +10. So here's the quiz. Did I mention in the opening that we might be a quiz? If I have an offset of 10 and a weight of -10, what's the total travel of this control when I move it? Anybody want to take a guess? I'll wait for an answer and I'll hold off showing you until we get a couple of stabs at the answer. So the idea here is that the flap, this is the flap adjustment, and this is going to impact the elevator. Okay. So it's a real simple configuration. There's not much to it. Notice it's the left switch. So when I add, Robert's on it. Robert's got it. 20, 20. So you take the offset and the weight and you combine them. So that's a range of 10 to 0 and 0 to -10. That's 20. Okay. All right. So if you guess 20, you got it right. Okay. So we have a weight of -10 and offset of 10. And that switch, the left switch, is going to impact the elevator. Okay. So now let's bring up the simulator and see what it looks like in the simulator when we do that. I want to see the outputs. Here we go. Now, remember, elevator, when I move the elevator up, you see what happens when I pitch forward, when I pitch down, I'm moving the stick forward, I'm pitching the nose down, we go up, all right? Now with my mix in place, my left slider, I'm gonna go ahead and put my flaps down, and look what happens to my elevator. Do you see how my elevator went from 0 to 20? So there's 0, look at channel 2, okay? Here's channel 2, right here on the left, so you see that? So right now my flaps are up, right? My flaps are in the neutral position, they're up. So when I bring the flaps down, remember what happens when we pitch the nose, when I move that stick forward? Do you remember what happens to the elevator? See how it moved up to 20%? That's the equivalent of pitching down with the elevator stick. Okay, so that's an elevator to flap mix, or a flap to elevator mix. I get that question all the time. And it's really not that hard. The thing I would encourage you guys to do is just come in and play with it. And that's one thing that's really awesome about Companion, is you can come in and play with it. Now, there was a problem though. And I mentioned a problem, and I want to show you guys. I should have probably left this up. Let me go ahead and bring this back up because I want to show you the problem. I'm going to bring this up, and this is where your monitor can come in really handy, and your mixer monitor will come in very handy as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock the elevator stick so that when I let go of it, it stays. Is that the one? Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so here's my elevator travel. Let me put my flaps back where they belong. Now my elevator travel, when everything's normal, my elevator travel is -100 to +100, okay? So here's the deal now. If I already have my elevator, now hopefully you're not going to be pitching down to a full 100% when you need to deploy your flaps, but let's say that you did. If I do that, now the problem that I'm going to have is I'm going to add flaps. My flaps are going to want to add more than the travel that I can use on my elevator. So notice how there's no change on the elevator. It stays at 100%. And this is actually easier to see on the radio, so I'll show you on the radio. But what I'm driving at here is that if I have a 20% adjustment for flaps, I won't use a full 100% on my elevator. Although OpenTx will prevent you from going any further because we have this set up in outputs. Let me show you the output screen real fast. We have the setting in outputs that says this control surface, the elevator, can only go to 100%. That's as far as it will go. The output screen limits, it is the final arbiter on limits. So if your output screen says 100, that's it. That's all you're going to do. So if I were to change this to 120%, for example, is it going to let me? No, it won't let me. I'll tell you what, we'll do it on the radio because I can show it on the radio better. Okay. I'm going to unplug the radio and I want to bring up the model. And here's the elevator. Okay, now here's my flap. Now watch what happens when I push this elevator up. So I'm pushing, and at the bottom of the screen, you can see outputs is the red bar. That's the red one. And my mixer is the gray bar. So watch what happens when I get to 100. You see the output stops. It doesn't go past 100. It stops right there. But look at the mixer. The mixer says 120. The reason that works is because your outputs limit the output no matter what the mixer says to 100%. So if I move my slider down or back to neutral, look at what happens with the mixer. You see how the mixer is decreasing. Now we're back to 100%, but the output on the elevator never changed. Okay, that's how the outputs constrain what the mixer sends. So people get really wrapped around the axle around this concept of input, mix, and output, and to me it makes perfect sense. I thought when I first realized what they were doing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's genius, because now I can do whatever I want on the inputs, whatever I want on the mixer, and I can use my outputs to be the final arbiter, the final rule. So I can get everything I want working in my mixer. And if I want to say, no, I don't ever want the servo to go that far, all I have to do is go into my outputs tab and reduce it just a little bit. So all my other logic still works, but I can use my output to say, no, that's stressing my servo. I don't like that. And I can make an adjustment. You can also, of course, reverse your servo. I just did a snippet video on that as well. So if you need to reverse a servo, you just go to that line, highlight it, and press the button, and it flips it the other way, and there you go. So that's it. That was the one example that I wanted to give you guys, because I'm telling you, man, that I don't know what it is about the flaps in the elevator. Personally, if I add flaps and I balloon, I just pitch down. I just do it myself. But that's the example, and that will become a snippet. So if you're on this live stream and you see that snippet, you don't have to watch that snippet video unless you want to see it for yourself. But anyway, this will be a snippet video. I'll just carve it out. And I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to those guys. So I hope you now, let me work on this. Well, now you know how to do an elevator to flat mix. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy. There, Yahtzee. Now I can edit that in my editing software, and we'll go. Glad to meet you. Hey, Matthew Barcombe, glad you made it too. Scott, when I move programming from companion to TX or vice versa, I lose global variable max point in my output line. Global variable max point in your output line. Let's take a look. There. Okay. There is no global variable. There's a PPM center. There's a sub-trim mode. There's servo direction. There's a curve, min, max, and sub-trim, and a label. There is no global variable on the outputs tab. So I need clarification, Scott. Good evening. I'm sorry, but a friend just bought a new TX16. His trainer screen just shows slave via the system menu, and the screen is blank. My friend just bought a new TX16S, and his trainer screen just shows slave on via the system menu. Okay, how can he see the system menu if the screen is blank? I'm confused about that. But that doesn't sound great. That sounds to me like a hardware issue. Yelly, Captain, how are you? Glad you can make it back. Ali, yeah, that sounds like a hardware problem to me. You might want to maybe pull the SD card out, take the battery out, reset it, and leave the SD card out and see what happens. But it shouldn't, the screen shouldn't just go blank unless you tell it to. I mean, I've got my backlight on a dial, so I can turn my screen on and off, but it should not just go blank because it wants to, no matter what mode you're in. Robert. Okay, Robert's saying hello. Here's the next Dutchie. Yep. Hey, Burkhard, good to see you. Okay, Matthew, did I miss the telemetry setup? Did you have a telemetry question on Companion? Go ahead and fire away. I'll try and grab that next. Ali, great content as always. Thank you. I appreciate that. See more, do less. I only found your channel a few months ago. Very interesting, educational. Subscribe, eventually become a Patreon as financial. Hey man, I appreciate that. Anybody, when it comes to Patreon, just do what you can. That's all any of us can do, right? Is just do what we can. So I appreciate everybody that's there with me in spirit, and for those who actually open the wallet. So big thanks to the patrons. Since you brought that up, I'll go ahead and say thanks to those guys too. Appreciate all the patrons on RC Video Reviews. Y'all have been very generous helping me with the financial burden of keeping the channel moving forward. Okay, there's the answers to our little quiz that we had. Yelly says, oh, he's speaking Dutch. Let's see. I cheated, used a cheat sheet. Robert, yeah, that's all right, man. That's all right. I didn't say it couldn't be open book. Yep. Oh, we got some Dutch going on. That's cool, man. A little international flavor. I have no idea. Stirk wind? Someone blow? Oh, I don't know. I'm not even going to guess what that is. What if you have two mixes on one channel? You can do that. I do two mixes on one channel all the time. You can, in fact, if you look at that crow breaking, let me see if that's on here. Which one? I got to find it. The crow breaking, I did multiple mixes on the same channel. The way I build mixes, guys, is one step at a time. In fact, for example, if I'm going to do something that involves both ailerons, I only worry about one. Once I get one aileron working, then I work on the second one, and just you end up reversing things. But let me see. I think it was the OpenTx snippet. I think that's the last one. And if I hit model, and page right, yeah, there's multiple mixes there. So on that one, I've got my aileron, and that switch is activated with not SA down. And then on this one, I've got a mix line that changes the weight of the aileron. And then this one mixes the slider with aileron. That's the crow brake. So yeah, you can put multiple mixes, no problem. And you can configure them with switches. So if you want a certain mix to be active with a switch, you just assign a switch value to it. It's very easy to do that. All right. Boy, a lot of Dutch going on there. I think that's Dutch. Can you adjust past 100 travel and outputs? Yep, you can. Let's take a look. So if you have something that wants to go a little higher, that's why I was in OpenTx Companion. You know what? There might be a limit. I think now that I think about it, yes, there is. I think if you go into model setup, there is something about extended servo. Extended servo, where is it? Extended limits right there. You see that? If you put a check mark in there, then you can go in outputs past 100%. I would caution you to be careful with that. There you go. See, going past 100. And I think I forget where it's 150 stops there. I'd be careful about that. They say servos mechanically limit themselves from damage, but I'm calling BS on that because I've damaged them by going too far. So I'm going to call BS on that. All right. In the companion telemetry simulator, what is the purpose of the first column of values? Okay, let's bring up companion first. Let's switch over there. One moment. And the question, this is Night Nav. He says, in the telemetry screen on the simulator. So the simulator. Wait, are you... wait, you're talking about this tab? Oh, I'm tricking myself. Here we go. Oh, those are IDs. Those are custom IDs. The radio will assign those. You don't have to worry about those. When you do, I've never, in fact, anytime I've ever tried to set my own ID in that field, it's failed. So when you do, let me see if I can find, yeah, I've got sensors on this one. So here, I'll click on this guy and edit, and I'll bring it back over to the camera. So, you know what? This is cool. I was thinking ahead. There we go. Check it out. How about that? All right. I'm going to unlock this so I can make it a little bigger so you guys can see it. So this is the ID right here. And when you do discover sensors, the radio will populate the ID. So honestly, it's best not to fool with those. Anytime I've ever messed around with those, it stopped working. So, all right, let's see. Questions. Companion telemetry folder, input text field protocol, I have first ES port selected, not able to deselect because the text is grayed out. Cannot all right. In companion telemetry folder, input text field. Companion telemetry folder. Oyvind, help me out, man. Let me see. All right. We got someone spamming the channel a little bit here. Let me see here. Oyvind, where'd your question go? In companion telemetry folder. I guess you mean the telemetry tab. Input text field protocol. Have FreeSky S port. Up here. And it's grayed out. Don't seem to do anything. For example, look at our assigned cells. So yeah, you know, yeah, it's grayed out on mine too. I don't know. Honestly, I've never fiddled with it. So I don't have an answer for you on that, Oyvind. I'd have to play around with it. I've never even noticed that before, but honestly, I don't, to be perfectly blunt, guys, I don't really fool around with telemetry in Companion too much. Companion's kind of useless for that. So I just don't fool with that too much. All right, like the MAH amps, etc., I get them to show up, but it won't read them aloud like I've seen other radios do. That's because I think they have to be active. You should be able to get them to read aloud. I don't think I have a sensor like a FreeSky sensor where I could do that testing right now, Matthew, but If you get a telemetry value, you should be able to read it, but it probably won't read it unless it's actually reading the value. So backlight on a dial is genius. B Stern, yeah, I wish I could take credit for that, man, but there's a snippet for that one. Real quick video, just a couple minutes. Oyvind, catch up with me on Discord. We'll dig into that a little bit further about the FreeSky S port. I think I just never have bothered with it. Okay. Wow. Is this ending? YouTube just showed this as an option. Never seen your channel before going to sub. John, well, great. No, this isn't ending. Not yet. We're getting there. We're probably winding down a little bit, but no, we're not ending. And don't forget, guys, while I have you, we also have Friday nights, we have a live stream, a pilot jam. We kind of talk about what's going on during the week. If there's any news, we talk about that. We talk about what's coming up for the channel. We just kind of rap a little bit and have a good time. And also don't forget Wednesday nights, we're doing the wing sim racing. So if you have wings or you want to learn to race FPV, you can hop on Discord and we can talk you through it. So wing simulator racing for Wednesday nights at 1900 Eastern US. So if you can make it, that'd be great. Okay, Pete Buttons, they're speaking Afrikaans, which is a mixture of Dutch and local. Oh, okay, well, at least I was close. I said Dutch at least. So thanks for the clarification, Pete. Appreciate that. I've ripped off aileron over and over. Yeah, man. Robert, they say, I read something about the servos having mechanical protection to stop them from being overdriven, but I've done it, man. I've done it. I've screwed up, with my settings and had something not quite the way it's supposed to be. And I've done it. I've broken a servo that was working just moments before. So I really don't know. I'm not sure I buy into the mechanical limits on servos, preventing them from hurting themselves. All right, hit the simulate button. No, not there. Okay, night nav, hit the simulate button. All right, give me a second. I will hit the simulate button. All right. There's a simulate button. Are you talking about in the menu here? Let's see. No, not there. It's going to be, yeah, it will. That's under model. And page left. Page right. All right, I hit the simulate button, night nav. I'll wait for you. John Fitzpatrick, not sure if it was asked. I've been trying to figure out how to use the bat check widget instead of a value gauge widget to show battery levels. I did a video on that too as well, John. If you go and look on my playlists, there's the very first snippet video I did was how to display transmitter voltage on the home screen if you want to do that. If you're talking about flight voltage, you need to get that via telemetry, just so you know. You can display it via telemetry. If you have the telemetry value, you can display it. So if that's what you're asking, you can do it as long as you're getting it via telemetry. If you're talking about transmitter voltage, that's built into the radio. You don't need anything extra for that. All right. All right, night nav, I'm in the simulator. I'm waiting for you. Would you trust this transmitter binding to a 12-channel Spectrum receiver to fly a 5K turbine-jet? I would. I fly the most expensive things I have. I mean, I don't have a 5K turbine jet because I simply wouldn't spend that kind of money on an RC plane personally. But if I had one, I would. I fly my nicest planes, the nicest planes I have. I would use this radio to do it. Yelly, anyone else lost the stream? Chat is still working. Where are you now? Where are you? Did I lose you guys somehow? I didn't go anywhere. All right. Joshua Cardwell has a video on read values battery. Okay. Thanks for the input. It shows on the radio, but I can't get the voice to work. All right, Matt, you're on Discord. Catch up with me on Discord. We'll work it out. How do you show battery voltage on the transmitter? Hold on. I will give you a link. I already did a whole video on that, so I will just give you a link for that one. In fact, I'll just, let's go over to the browser window and I'll share it. So I still have voice here. Okay, playlists. You guys go to my playlists on RC video reviews on YouTube. Let's see if I can get a little help here. There we go. Playlists in the snippets video. Oops, I just want to see there. Right here. How to display, it's the very first video in the snippets folder. Right there, how to display transmitter battery voltage. Okay, now press the second button to input telemetry. Let me flip back to that. Night nav, we got to try and get him going here. So let's go back to the companion. And he says, now press the second button to input telemetry. The second button. Oh, this thing looks like it's stuck. No, that's me that's stuck. Second button. Okay. Second button. So I have to have a sensor, and I don't have a sensor, so I'm not sure which field you're asking me to input here. So I don't have any sensors on the simulator. Second button on the left column. Okay. Left column. That's, yeah, but you got to be, tell me what field you're looking at, man. I'm in the variometer right now. So that's not a telemetry sensor, and I don't have any sensors in this particular. Let me bring up a model that I think I have sensors in. That might help. So, let's see. Where do I have sensors? Where do I have sensors? I have an OpenTx snippet. Yes. Simulate. All right, page left. Okay. So here's the telemetry screen, and you're saying the second column. So I'll press enter here. Okay, if I press enter there, it brings me into the sensor itself. So Night Nav, why don't you get on Discord, man? I'm not following where you're going. Where are you going with this? Chris says I have a 6-volt servo tester and 5 volts in the receiver, so the servo test and actual run are different. I already know the servos do it. Just want to have the option for the radio to do it. 5 volts in the receiver, so servo test run. Okay. Yeah, I mean, voltage, that's receiver and ESC dependent. I mean, you know, if your receiver can take 6 volts, you can plug, I don't know, maybe you're not talking to me. But yeah, if you have 6 volts on your receiver, your servos will get 6 volts. That's not really a radio thing, so I'm not sure where you're going with that. Ken, it's great radio, probably could work. I've found Futaba to this radio and calibrated. Okay, so we're talking about Futaba. Thanks for all your help. Mark, you're welcome. Spectrum gives you up to 125%. Yeah, but Chris, the reason Spectrum gives you 125% extended travel is because they start at 80% travel. It's in the firmware. If you go look at OpenTx, you'll find that Spectrum by default is limited to 80%. So you have to do an override, and I think they do that for the gyros on flight simulators or something. I don't know. But yeah, they play some really goofy games by limiting the initial throw in the first place. All right. Companion special functions tab, select play track, then pull down list shows all new sounds initially, but suddenly the pull down list contains only 4 No, that could be a bug in Companion. I've never, you're saying in the special functions tab. All right, I'll bring the special functions tab up and let's take a look. Let's see what mine says. You got to make sure you have your, SD card path set correctly. So if you don't have it set correctly, it's not going to work. But if you have your SD card, yeah, those are all the amber sounds. So no, I don't think that's a bug. Oyvind, it sounds to me like you have something set wrong with your profile. So you got to make sure in your radio profile. Oh, come on. You got to make sure in your radio profile that you have your application, your SD card sounds where, nope, radio profile, SD card structure path, right there. That's got to be right. If that's not right, then it's not going to do your sounds correctly. All right. Let's see. No, the specific bat check widget. No, I don't. The bat check widget, I don't even know what that is, John. I'm not familiar with that one. The bat check widget. Sorry. All good stream feed on here. Yeah, Hola, glad you like it. Thank you. OpenTx, what's the SD structure path? Is it the radio SD card and backup folder, or do I just make one? RC Addict, what you want to do for Companion is I always make one on my server. I have a file server, so I just make one. And that's where you would store the sounds that you want Companion to use while you're using Companion. So normally what I do is I'll set up my sync when I do the synchronization. I'll normally set that up, the local folder, to be the same as my structure. And that way, when I connect my radio and I press the sync button, it puts any sounds that I have on the radio in that folder, and then the profile looks in that folder for those sounds. So that's kind of how I do things on Companion. All right. Matthew says, yeah, I watch him getting it to the show on the radio. Is my problem? It's getting the voice. Yeah, it should play a Matt. I mean, I play telemetry values all the time. It should work. If you've got the data, it should call it out. Now, there have been bugs in the past where it will call out the wrong units. Even if you go into the telemetry and set up the correct unit, where it's say dBi, it'll say volts. You know, I've had RSSI where I've gone into the telemetry option and set it for dBi, and it comes back and she'll read volts. You know, it's like, okay, you have 62 volts. I really don't think I have 62 volts. I have 62 dBi on RSSI. So I've had those issues before, but anytime I've had a telemetry value, I've been able to get her to read it. All right, Spectrum got too expensive. Radio Master, yeah, Sean, yeah. I don't Spectrum. I don't want to bash, but Spectrum's just never been for me, man. I've always been an OpenTx guy. All right, I tried the bat check widget last night and couldn't get it to work either. Yeah, I don't know what it is, you guys. You're gonna have to Google the bat check thing. Yeah, bat check for Fursky. Yeah, that sounds probably right, Robert. Thanks for throwing that out there. Robert says he thinks the bat check widget is only for FreeSky MLVSS and FLVSS sensors. So that sounds plausible. Second button, Night Nav, you're going to have to get me on Discord, man. I'm having a hard time following where you're trying to go with the telemetry thing. I can't track you. Get on Discord, man. We can work it out. Chris, what can you adjust the stuff? What you can adjust the stuff right on Companion. I'm not sure I understand your question, Chris, but yeah, in Companion, you can pretty much do anything that you make on the radio, you can do in Companion, just about. There are some little nuances, but I'd say it's 95% there. Ken says, that's what worries me. Has anyone done extensive testing for this with different protocols? Ken, I'll put it this way. When it comes to testing RF, most people have no idea what they're talking about. There are very few YouTube personalities that do. One of them is Bruce. So if you want RF information, go check with Bruce. And I think everyone knows who Bruce is. But I'll tell you, for my own personal use, I've flown this radio with an L9R transmitter or receiver, all the way out to 2 miles and not had a problem. So it's very reliable. I've flown park grade receivers as far as my eyes can see without any problems. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. I'd be very cautious about what you believe on YouTube. That's all I'll say. I don't do RF testing because it's a very specialized skill set. You need very specialized equipment, and you need a real deep understanding of RF protocols and things that influence RF protocols that most people on YouTube just have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. So I'm going to leave it there. But bottom line is, when it comes to range control, I have no fear with this radio. I fly the most expensive planes I've got, and I don't have issues. So I'm going to leave it there, and that's my answer to that question. Robert says, do you have battery voltage on your telemetry screen in the sensors? I do not. I don't think I have anything outside of iNav that gives me battery voltage, Robert. Night Nav, the round buttons. Okay. B Stern says, I love snippets. Cool. Yeah, I like the snippets. You guys are responding very well to the snippets. So, yeah, load Discord and get on it, guys. The Discord, I can take the time to ask questions and drill in, but in a format like this, getting that kind of micro is just, it doesn't lend itself well to it. All right. Let's see. Some Spectrum radios give you up to 150%. Others do 125. Okay. Yeah, I'm using our R168 has the lead. Why do you have RX number for some models, but not for others? Frankly, Jeff, because this is a test radio. So I do a lot of demos and trials, but I don't really do a lot of flying with this radio. Long story short, but this is more of a demo test radio. So I don't get too particular about my receiver numbers. That's why. All right. Chris says works in all the other widgets. It's not that one. First time I tried it. Okay, guys, if you haven't figured it out, get on Discord. Yeah. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for drilling that one. Jim says, John, perhaps he means the second button down from the very top left of the screen. It looks like an O-scope. I don't know. I don't know what screen we're on. All right. Ready for one question, special functions. Yeah, go ahead, Oyvind. Hit me on special functions. Ken Merkert, not that I found, but you learn to calibrate. I'm not losing anything by just keeping my Futaba and seeing it. Fail safe. Way sooner. I'll stay how it is. Okay. Let's see. It makes asking and answering a lot easier, according to Robert on Discord. Yes. What will Bluetooth do? There is no Bluetooth on the TX16S that I'm aware of. I think you can get a Bluetooth module, and that would let you do things like maybe get telemetry data, maybe operate an iNav computer, stuff like that. If you have the Amber sound pack, check out. Yeah, she's got... yeah, if you get Amber, she's got some really kind of funny catchphrases in there. Mr. Sir Norway, hello guys. Video feed is perfect, but when I turn on Tyrannus with micro V2 crossfire, I get a lot of noise, even more when I arm. Any ideas? I get a lot of noise where? Where, you know, Mr. Sir Norway, you say when I turn on Tyrannus with micro V2 crossfire, you get a lot of noise. Where do you get noise? John says, thanks. If you do not figure out how to use a Backtrack widget, you'll have the first video on it. Yeah, okay. Maybe. I actually have some FreeSky battery sensors out there too. I haven't messed with them in a long time. All right, Matt. Yeah, get on Discord and chat with me. Oyvind says, formatting the SD card, FAT32, FAT16. It'll do FAT32, Oyvind. That's another thing, guys. You can always test. You know, I think FAT32 gives you bigger partition sizes than FAT16. And probably, if my memory is right, it gives you longer file names and other stuff. But it works with FAT32. SD card not working, old Tyrannus. Okay. Who is Bruce? Okay, you know who Bruce is. Yeah, Bruce, I'm telling you guys, if you guys want to know RF theory, you go ask Bruce. He's the man to ask. There are very, very few people that I would take advice from when it comes to radio. He's one of them. All right. Just want to say, I just want to use Yapu setup as fiddly. Yeah, you know, a lot of people talk about Yapu. I haven't tried it yet. I might have to dig that out at some point. I've done the iNav telemetry and it works pretty good. So I've been very happy with that. Perhaps he means the second button down from the very top left of the screen. Looks like an O-scope trace. Second button down from the top left of the screen. Here's the top left of the screen. Second button down. I mean, that's a timer. See what I mean, Jim? I don't know what you guys are talking about. All right, how about if we do it on the radio instead of an iNav? Because I feel like we're beating a dead horse on this, but let's go ahead and try it. I'm gonna go back to telemetry. Here's telemetry. Tell me where to go. Tell me where to go. All right, noise in the video. So, okay, you got noise in your video. What VTX are you using? If you have a Crossfire, that's 900 megahertz, and I don't know what power level you're running, and I don't know what video frequency set you're running on. So you shouldn't get noise in your goggles strictly from a transmitter. Hank, I prefer iNav Lua over Yapu Lua. Yeah, I like that iNav setup. It looks really good. B Stern, you gotta get on the YouTube channel and go look at my playlist for snippets, and I'll flip over there again. Hold on one second. And there is a video right here, how to install the Amber sound pack right there. So you can do that. You can get on there and check that out. Okay. An 800 milliwatt Unify Pro. Is that 5.8 gigahertz? So you have a 9 and you're 868, right? So you take 5800 divided by 868. It's a harmonic of 6. Yeah, I guess if you put a transmitter very close to your receiver, then you could have problems. But I've used the Crossfire 900 megahertz near 5.8 gigahertz FPV goggles pretty regularly without any problems. So seems like something is amiss there. You shouldn't really have too much interference that way. All right. Thanks. Yeah, be stern, man. You gotta go check the playlist. I try and keep all that stuff organized so you guys can find that stuff easy. John, you were answering NightNav's Telemetry Simulator question and we're right there in Companion when you couldn't find it. Yeah, Jim, I'm gonna take this on Discord. Okay, I'm having a hard time trying to track. I'm not clear on what it is that he wants me to click on. He's saying the second column, but I'm not sure. I'll go back here. I'll tell you what, guys. Let's take a pause because we're gonna beat this one. So let's beat it. I'm gonna beat it. I'm gonna open up OpenTx snippet. I'm gonna go to the telemetry screen, and here we go. So there we go. Tell me where I'm supposed to be clicking, guys. I don't seem to be able to get away from this. So let's spend the time working on it. Let's work it out. Jim, come on, man. I'm counting on you. You guys got to tell me what you're looking for on this telemetry screen. We got dead air here. Hit simulate. Okay, I hit simulate. We're trying to, we have a question about telemetry that we're trying to sort out. Hit the second round button on the left. 1, 2. Okay, telemetry. That's called the telemetry monitor. Okay, so there we go. No, it's not a widget. This is the monitor. This lets you simulate telemetry values. That's what this is. It lets you simulate right under view. Yeah, I'm already there. Jim, I already have it open, man. I've got this. Is this what we're talking about? This window that I'm moving around right here? It says simulate. Yelly Captain, you're truly an OpenTx guru. I try, man. I appreciate that. Okay, so I have the simulator open. What are we looking for, guys? What do you enter in the first column? You enter whatever value you want. This is a simulator. So if you want your RSSI, like if you're doing some testing, for example, and you want your RSSI to be 80, you put that in there. It's a simulator. So if you're testing, like we had, who was asking? It was Matt. Matt was asking about battery. So if you have a battery sensor in here, you can put whatever you want. You can go to the battery value and say, let's just say it's this one, RX bat right here. You can put in and say, I want this to be 12.5 or 12.6 volts. And when you do that, then when you're in the simulator operating and looking at that sensor, it'll say 12.6 volts. So this is your telemetry simulator. This is what lets you set your, it lets you simulate your telemetry values. So if you want an alert when your RSSI hits 30, you can set up your special functions, come in here and say, okay, RSSI is now 30, and you hit enter, and your radio should go, oh, RSSI is 30. That's what it should do. It's just a testing feature when you're using the simulator. 80 has nothing to do unless you butt in the volume with, 80 does nothing unless you butt in the volume with the dropdown. Okay, clarify the question. I can't understand what you're saying or asking. I don't get it. Companion is nuts. The more I figure out, the more I don't know. Yeah, you gotta spend time in Companion. It's a fun little tool, but you gotta spend a little time in there. But NightNav, I need you to clarify your question, brother, because I do not understand what you're asking me. It says 80 does nothing unless you butt it in the volume with the drop down. I have no idea what you're asking me, man. Come on, I need you to come back to me or I'm gonna move on. You got to come back to me like right now. Let's go. Okay, theory, you need to put the value in the drop-down window. What drop-down? I don't have a drop-down window. Which drop-down window are you referring to? Yeah, I don't know. Is there that much lag? I don't know what's going on here. Which drop-down window are you referring to, buddy? Where it says 75. Okay. RSSI. Oh, maybe that's the value, and this is just the ID. But see, yeah, that's just not, then that's an ID field. Okay. So then maybe you don't fiddle with it. Let me close out of this real quick and bring it back up. and see what happens. Yeah, that's just that's probably still just the sensor ID, but the point stands. These fields are just for adjusting stuff in the simulator. So yeah, I don't have my glasses on. I didn't see that second column there, but yeah, that's probably just the sensor ID. Honestly, I wouldn't fiddle around with that. You just leave that part alone and use the voltage. You know, use this column then if you want to simulate different variables. So 12 volts and 75 dB. I can see it now. Yeah, I think they're just IDs, and I personally have never messed around with those. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Okay, I'm putting a fork in that one. We are moving on from that, guys. If you want to know more, let's get on Discord and we'll fool around with it. Okay, I don't mind fooling around with it on Discord. All right. Never mind. Appreciate your help. We'll get to it later. Okay. It's been 5 years for me. It's the learning curve. Yeah. And Robert, it seems like, well, I just learned something new today. I knew about the telemetry simulator. I never even paid attention to the first column. Honestly, I've never even bothered with it, but I do know that in that simulator, you can put in values to simulate what's going on with the radio. So yeah, we always learn something new. All right, Yelly says, I don't use companion other than flashing a new OpenTx on my radio and most of my setup on the radio itself, but the way you are showing it, it seems very convenient. Oh man, you know, when you're first setting up a model or learning how to do something in OpenTx, it's really helpful to learn how to use companion. So I would absolutely encourage you guys, if you haven't done it, just get it and fool around with it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And you can really spend time just kind of like, imagine trying to do this on the radio. If you wanted to change this to 70, you know, that takes a lot of time to do that in a radio. So I definitely encourage people to use companion and learn to navigate around. And if nothing else, you can back up your radio and your models and all of that stuff. So it's definitely a good tool for that. Okay. Chris says, I know a guy or two have this radio, might as well use DXE for what they really, yeah, Chris. And that's, you know, that's a good point. When I first started doing the OpenTx videos, I did some complex stuff and some guys came in, they're like, man, I just want to fly the plane. And it seems to go over people's head that, okay, then just go fly the plane. You know, you don't have to get crazy with it. The only reason I show people how to get crazy with it is because if all you ever do is just fly the plane, that's great. But if you want the radio to do more, it can. So most people can figure out how to fly the plane. They don't need my help for that. But if you want to do complex timers or advanced techniques with timers, or you want to put 3 functions on a single 2-position switch, there's no book for that. You know, that's why I do some of the things that I do. But yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. All right. Yelly, it's a lot easier to adjust on the PC than the radio. Yep, absolutely 100%. Companion has more options in certain areas than just the radio, and it's more convenient. It's definitely more convenient when it comes to navigation. Can you tell us about cool features of OpenTx? I'll tell you what, I'm going to cover something in OpenTx that I haven't done in a while, and this is another one that I'm going to teach you guys because I'm going to ask you for help. Here's one of my pet peeves. I did one the other day, and it was a throttle lock. And somebody came in, he goes, oh, that's a stupid way to do a throttle lock. You should have it should be required that your throttle is off first before you, and fine. You know, I've done that video too. So if you want to have a throttle lock that won't engage until you have the throttle at 0, there's a video for that. I've done it, but I did a basic throttle lock, and it's more so to teach the technique than it is about the lock itself. But here's the funny part. This other guy comes in, he goes, throttle locks belong in global functions, not special functions, so it applies to all radios. Okay, wise guy. Here, let me show you something. If you press system and you press page right and you go to global functions, you guys know how a basic throttle lock works, right? You're going to override a channel. Forget about all the other safety stuff. A basic throttle lock is you're overriding a channel. So let's override the channel. We'll go in global function 9, and I'm just going to pick SH up, which is what I always do for my throttle lock. And then I'm going to press enter. And now I'm going to select override channel 3 because that's what I use. I use channel 3. So trainer is the first option. I'm all the way to the left. So let's go through it. There's trainer. Nope. Instant trim. That's a good one. I love instant trim. There's reset. You can reset a timer if you want to. You can do that. You can set a timer. So if you want to set a timer value, like say you're flying and you just want to hit a switch, you can set your timer back to 5 minutes or whatever. That's cool. So then there's volume. If you want to adjust the volume, I already have that. I have S1 to adjust my volume. There's a fail-safe, which is kind of weird. That one freaks me out a little bit because you can actually set your fail-safe with a switch. Imagine that in a global function. You could really do some damage with that. There's play a sound. You can have it beep if you want to. There is play a track, which is, that's what I have here. I put my high, mid, and low rates under play track. So no matter what radio I use or what model I use, when I move this switch, it always plays that track for me. All right, so that's a cool little feature. Now, there's also play a value. So that's where you get the things like RSSI. So if you want to play an RSSI value, you could do it in here. And there's a Lua script if you want to run those, although I think that's deprecated. I think they're getting away from that. Then there's background music. So if you put an MP3 on there, you can play background music. Although on the radio, I haven't been able to get that to work. It doesn't sound right. There's background music pause. So if you want to pause your background music, you can do that. There's your Vario. So if you want to have something to do with your Vario on or off, you can do it there. You can turn your haptic feedback on. You can turn on SD logs, your backlight, take a screenshot, or wait a minute, where is the override throttle? This is what kills me. You get guys that'll come in, they'll say, man, that belongs in global functions, but they don't know the first thing about the radio. So the reason I went through all that with you guys is to show you that global functions are applicable to all models. There's a very specific reason the developers don't have override channels in global functions. And it's because not all airplanes have all channels. I've got airplanes that have 3 channels. I've got airplanes that have 16 channels. I've got airplanes that have 8 channels. If I put a global function in to override channel 10 on everything, then who knows what that can do? So the developers, for whatever their reasons, saw fit not to have an override channel function in global functions. So not everything that works in special functions works in global functions. However, with that said, I do believe that everything that works in global functions works in special functions. So if we go to special functions and I click anything in here, like SH up, for example, look at the very first option. It's override channel 1. So that's where the throttle lock goes. So, my point in all this is that special functions and global functions have very common DNA, right? They let you perform certain actions. Special functions has a lot more actions than global functions. You can do just about anything with special functions, but you can't do everything with global functions. So that's the moral of the story. If you want to understand the primary difference between the two, it's that global functions means all models. Special functions means this model. So notice that when you set up special functions, to get to those, you press the model button, and that's how you get to special functions. Okay? If you want global functions, you press the system button and you press page right, and that's how you get to global functions. Okay? So there's a difference between the two in what the developers allow and don't allow. And I can assure you guys, if there's a reason that something goes in global functions, I'll put it there. You can see I use global functions, right? I put my volume there. I put my backlight there. I have my rate sounds there. Every plane I fly, if I have rates, that's where they go. So, instant trim, that goes there. So when you think about global functions, think about every single plane, no exception, right? Throttle cut, not every single motor is on channel 3. All right. Beat that to death, but I did want to touch on that because I wanted to show you guys so you all knew there is a difference between the two. Global functions it's a subset. That's the bottom line. All right, let's see. Chris, can we create a calculated telemetry value? I'm a noob and not sure what I should look at. That's a good question, John. I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe, but I don't think so. I know you can do things like that's a trick question because you can do things in special functions like increment a global variable based on some information. So let me go to special functions and let me see what the options are for. I'm just going to pick a switch for this one, but you can increment a global global variable. Let me see here. Let's see, adjust global variable. We'll call it GV1, and here are the options. So you can increment, you can use a global variable, or you can use a mixer source. So it doesn't look like you can do it off of telemetry, although no, I don't see any way to set a global variable based on the telemetry data. So I'm going to say no to that. If there were an option to set a global variable based on telemetry, then I'd say maybe, because you can increment and decrement based on the global variable. So I think the answer to that is no. But I reserve the right to be wrong because I've never tried to calculate a telemetry value. Telemetry is just, it's a number, right? The airplane is giving you something and saying, here's what the number is. I've never tried to do math on that. All right. Chris says, I spent an afternoon a couple days ago just learning logical switches. Now I'm trying to find a reason to use them. I follow John's logical switch. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with logical switches. I do. If you look at my advanced series, you'll see some videos showing you some stuff with logical switches. There's some very neat things you can do. Mace Yee, just do everything in special function, duplicate the model before buying. Isn't that what you all do? No, I don't. See, I definitely use global functions. Global functions has a place. Instant trim is one example. Instant trim is, I use that switch for every single plane. So there's no reason not to. Don't be afraid to use global functions. I'm not suggesting not to use them. I'm suggesting understand what can be done and can't be done. So when I do this, it doesn't matter what I do with other models. I never worry about instant trim. I know it works on all my planes. So, don't be afraid to use global functions. Just understand what the difference is. That's all I'm suggesting. All right. Jim says, I've got a lot of planes with no motor or need for throttle. Yeah, there you go. See, QED, that's exactly. And Jim, you might say that you could have a plane that not only does it have no throttle, but you need channel 3 for something else. So could you imagine during flight, hitting your throttle lock on accident and having it, turn your elevator to, full nose down or put your flaps down, or who knows, create some other scenario that's just no good. So yeah, there's a reason they do it. And I'll tell you something else, guys, between you and me and the lamppost, when it comes to the OpenTx developers, you got to understand, man, that they catch it all. So every single gripe about this radio, every guy on the planet that flies RC and says he knows what he's doing, they go to those OpenTx developers and they let them have it. Those guys, all you got to do is go read their bug tracker. They get it from all sides, and they have to spend quite a bit of time justifying. So when it comes to most functional things, I'm not talking about bugs, right? They should be informed bugs. I think they want to be informed bugs, but I'm saying functionally speaking, they've probably thought through it. So if they have no overrides in here, there's probably a damn good reason for it. And I expect there won't be any change anytime soon. So just keep that in mind. You got to have a little faith in these guys. They're really good at what they do. All right. Macy, just everything in special functions. Oh, we already covered that. Let's see. Good morning from Australia, mate. Do you use an arm switch for airplanes as a safety precaution before you fly, or do you need a flight controller? No, I've got plenty of planes that have no flight controller. I always use some form of safety, and I've got at least 2 videos on how to create a safety. In fact, while we're talking, I'll bring it up. I've got 2 videos out there on doing throttle locks. One is a very basic one, and it's just a simple override. And then, sorry, I got this thing talking in my ear. 1 second. There's one. I got one. Let me get the other one here. Let's see. Oh, I'm in incognito mode. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll just bring up the one, and you guys can, let me see if, I'll tell you what. I can find it. 1 second. One second. I'm getting the playlists out, and let's see. Beginner series. Man, I got everybody playing in my ear here. I'm working on it, guys. Hang with me just a moment. Let me get this out. These throttle lock questions. Throttle locks, they elicit responses for some reason. People are very passionate about throttle locks. So let's see. No, it must be in the advanced one. I'm not logged in as me, so I can't just go immediately to it. So I have to go. There it is. I got it. All right, let me bring this up real quick. The browser desktop. Okay, we still have audio. Good. Okay, we've got audio. Here we go. The first one is a basic throttle lock right here. OpenTx snippet throttle lock with voice prompts. This is a very basic one, real simple to implement. It's simple override on channel 3. And then here's one that's a little bit more involved. And this one uses logical and sticky switches so that you cannot enable the throttle unless your throttle is set to 0. Okay, throttle has to be set to 0. And then when you do that, you can enable your throttle and then you can bring the throttle stick up. Okay, so 2 different videos on how to do throttle locks. So go check the channel. You guys got to check out those playlists. You know, get on there and go through those playlists. I know it's a lot of material, but even if you don't want to watch them all, you can probably get a lot of information out of what's going on in those things. Okay, let's see. I thought global was the radio, not the plane. Global functions are functions that apply to all models. And let me show you the exception. Just so you guys know, there is an exception. So let me show you the exception. When you're in global functions, everything you see here applies to every model with one exception. When I go back to my model setup, there is an option, and you scroll left under model setup onto the main page to ignore global functions. So you see that option right there that says use global functions. If you have a model for some reason you don't want the global functions, you uncheck that and the global functions do not apply to this model only. All right. So just if you ever have a problem with a global function not working, that's the first place you need to go, is go make sure there's a check mark in that global functions box. Oh, let's see. Some pure glider guys use the throttle stick for flaps like yeah, Jim, that's right. And somebody mentioned that. Somebody came in and goes, well, I can't imagine a glider pilot using anything but the throttle stick for crow braking. And I thought, okay, well, I'm a glider rookie. I started the video saying that. But I can't imagine flying a plane and using flaps with anything but the left slider switch. So, that cuts 2 ways, I guess. But yeah, you're right. The point is that you can use this however you want. So if you don't want to use the left slider as your source for crow braking, that's the thing that kills me about OpenTx, man. That's like, I just don't even want to respond to those comments, because my attitude is, look, man, you could use this knob for throttle. And I've done it. I've done a video on it. I think I did a live stream. If I wanted my throttle to be here, I could. If I wanted my flaps to be there, I could. If I wanted my ailerons to be here, I could. I could make these my ailerons, this my elevator, and just, you can switch things around however you want. That's the thing about OpenTx. It doesn't care. OpenTx, just so you guys know, the mixer. That's another dot I'd like to connect for you. It's real important to understand the mixer, because this mixer is where it all happens. That channel 1 is connected to that stick. So that's what makes the bind, that channel and that input. And by the way, notice that little icon right there. You see that little, it looks like a C with a triangle in it. That refers to an input. So if I go page left, you see the input icon right there? It's a little C with a little triangle on it. That's inputs. So your inputs are defined here, okay? And you'll notice this input says aileron, and it's got aileron right there, but notice the icon's different. That aileron refers to the aileron stick. On the Mode 2 radio, that's this. So that's how you connect the stick to the logical construct that becomes an input, and you use that throughout the radio. So the input gets fed to the mixer. When you set up a mix line, your source is the input. You could make it the stick if you want. Here, I'll show you. Let's go in and make it the stick. So if I want it just to be the stick, now if I go down and scroll, you see how it changes? See that icons change? Where is aileron? You'd think they put this stuff in out. There it is. Okay, check that out. You see that? That icon means we're no longer taking input on channel 1 from the inputs tab. We're only taking it from this stick. So if I were in my inputs tab right now and I set up dual rates, they'd be ignored by the mixer. The mixer wouldn't know anything about it because now this channel 1 is looking at this stick. Okay. When you use the input symbol for your source right here, you're not using the stick. This means the stick. If I go back here and change this to an input source right there, I'm skipping over it, aren't I? There it is. If I use the input source right there, you see that little input icon. Now this channel, channel 1, is governed by the input source, which is defined right here, aileron, and it's using the stick. Now you say, well, why would you go through all that? Okay, well, imagine you have this complex mix and now I want to apply rates. If you don't use the input screen, you have to take this aileron right here, channel 1, and you have to duplicate it. So you'd have to say 100%, 50, and 25, and you'd have to copy that. 150%, 25, and you have to copy it again. 150%, 25, and then you'd have to adjust your rates manually. That's why they have an input screen. Input screen is the multiplier for rates. So if you guys look at the channel monitor, okay, where's the aileron? What do I have here? Oh, I've got hold on a second. I got to figure out why it's doing that. Aileron, do I have trim or something? Which one is this? This is the crow braking. Let me find an easier one for now. Here, let me see. I don't know why it's giving me a change in my ailerons, but let me just find something a little easier to understand. Okay. Okay, here we go on the mix. You see how this mix line uses the aileron? Now, when I go over to the inputs page, and if we look at the aileron right now and I move the stick, you can see that it moves 100%, okay? So if I go into my inputs page now and I say I want to do a copy, and then I'm going to paste it right here, and I'm going to go back up here and set this guy to be switch, we'll call it rate up, and we'll call this middle one not rate up. It is not rate up. Okay. So what this means is that when I have my SB switch all the way up, I'm in high rates. When I have my switch anywhere but up, I have middle rates or low rates. So now I'm going to just set the weight value to be something other than 100%. Scroll down and we'll call it 67. That's easy to remember. Okay. So in high rates, we have 100% travel. If I put this switch to anything but up, I'll be at 67. You see that? Okay. Now imagine that other example. If you wanted to do rates like that and you used the stick as your guidance or your mechanism under the mixer, you're going to have to go back and apply these rates or that multiplier to every single weight that you want to have for rates. So if you want to have 3 rates, you're going to have 3 sets of those mix lines. That's why you use the input tab. All right. That's why we do it. I get asked that question all the time too. Why does it have to be so complex? Well, if you think about it, using inputs, mixes, and outputs doesn't make it more complex. It makes it easier, because if you understand that relationship that the inputs feed the mixer and the mixer feeds the outputs, it's really simple to configure the radio. The main magic comes in the mix page, because that channel 1 right there is connected to that input source. Those two things. And that channel 1, by the way, that means pin number 1 on your receiver. So in OpenTx world, we don't care about labels like ailerons or flaps or gear or aux1 or aux2 or any of that crap. On OpenTx, we look at a receiver and we go, that's pin number 1, pin number 2, pin number 8. That's it. We don't care it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you put on those pins. You can put, if I wanted my ailerons to be, I could do this. I'll just say, I don't want my ailerons to be on channel 1. I want my ailerons to be on channel 8 because I'm special. I'm going to put my ailerons right there on channel 8. Now, all I need to do is connect my servo wire to pin number 8 on that receiver, and bada bing, bada boom, my ailerons will work. So it's the mix page that connects the pin on the receiver to the control. Okay. And you can put this stuff anywhere you want. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a gear output or an aux output. It doesn't matter. You can have any source connected to any channel. How is that hard? You know, I know a lot of guys come from different radio systems and they look at this and are like, what the hell are you guys doing? How come it doesn't have a gear switch? Oh, because a gear switch can be anything you want. It's completely configurable. It's a blank slate. You can draw the picture the way you want the picture to look. That's the best way to put it. All right, let me go back and look at comments. I think I missed a few things. Let's see. Robert says, guys, go through the playlist. Yep. Let me keep going up. I think, can you use logical switches in global functions? No. Global functions do not accept logical switches. That's a good question, Chris. I've tried that. But here, just to prove the point, let me see. We'll see if I have any logical switches. I do. I have L01. L01, A is less than X. So if we exit out and go to global functions, and we try and highlight, well, I'll just take a blank. Whoops. I'll take a blank and we'll try and highlight L01. It won't be there. They won't read logical functions because same deal. Not every model will have the same logical functions. So there you go. Answer is no. That's confirmed. All right. Let's see. How do you change rates on a transmitter for a drone? Well, we just covered that, 12 Dob Gaming. We just did that. We just did dual rates. So there you go. Jim, I have the OTX code to support it in a lot of paraglider models after copying, but they're simply ignored. Okay. Spell checker. Yeah, I don't know. You drinking today, Jim? I don't know. Did you bring enough for everybody? Some pure glider guys, we covered that. Let's see. Trying to find questions. So I'm scanning, guys. Can you use logical? We covered that. Guys, go through the playlist. Thanks, Robert. I watched the throttle on the right-hand side slider for hand launch video. It's insane. Yeah, you can do that. It's real easy to do that. You could easily flip them. You can easily flip them and have your slider override your channel. So you put a switch down and say, I mean, I could probably configure that while we're talking. So if you were in the model setup and you went into your mixer, you could say, or special function, see, you could just do, we'll do SA down. Wait a minute. I don't think you even need to do that. You just go under mix under throttle and do it right here on channel 3. Insert after right there. And you could do, I'll just give it a name of B for now. And I'll use the source as a slider. And we'll do multiplex, replace. There you go. That'll do it. So now when I should put a switch, I need to put a switch number on there. So let's do a switch. We'll do SA down. Okay, so when SA is down, my left slider overrides channel 3. It is channel 3. So if I go into the model monitor, you see that the throttle stick no longer does anything, but my slider does. You see that? That's how easy it is to do this stuff. So, and if I put SA up, then my stick is in control of the throttle again, right? Put SA down, and now my left slider is the throttle. It's that easy. This stuff is like, once you kind of understand what the mixer does, it's real easy. This is really easy to do this. All right. Let's see. Created a model for when I use the simulator. The TX16S would go into emergency mode when I was running a different model. I erased my sim model and then stopped. And okay, I created a model for when I use a simulator. The TX16S would then go into emergency mode when I was using a different model. I erased my sim model and this stopped. What did I do wrong? I'm not sure. I haven't been able to, I've seen emergency mode once or twice, but I've never been able to force it. So I'm not sure, Ian, what you did there. Can't help you with that one. Sorry. What's the point of numerous rates? Well, 12 Dob Gaming, if you have a pattern plane and you want to fly precision, for example, you want to use lower rates because that gives you a little bit less throw, right? If you're flying 3D, for example, you might want crazy rates, lots of throw. So you can use dual rates to allow the radio to not move a servo as far as the servo can. So as you reduce the rate, the servo travel is lowered. You increase the rate, the servo travel is increased up to a point. All right, Midnight Maniac. Some reason my sticks don't line up. If I pull left on the aileron, it goes left. If I pull right, it goes left. Please help me. That sounds like a... Okay, where does it... If you pull right, it goes left. What goes left? I need to understand more about what you're saying goes left. Brian, cool. Maybe in special functions you can use either slider or switch to throttle. Yeah, well, yeah. I just did, instead of special functions, I just put it right in the mix line. I'm not sure in special functions how you do it. I looked at special functions first and decided it made more sense to do it in the mixer. Yeah, so using the mixer. Can I get help, please? OpenTx Companion is confusing. Sure. I've got plenty of videos out there. Go check my playlist out and start there, and then come back with a specific question. We'll try and help you out. Happy to help on Companion, but I mean, you know, I need something a little more specific than that. All right. Robert's helping out on the rate question. Rosadilla, can I use the instant trim with the flight modes? Okay, so you can't. Flight modes will carve up your trims for you. So if you're in flight mode 0, for example, you can have one set of trims. And then if you're in flight mode 1, you can have a different set of trims, and you can use instant trim to set either one. So you don't go across flight modes unless you're in flight modes and you tell your flight modes to use trims from another flight mode. So for example, you could say, I want for flight modes 0, 1, and 2 to use flight modes from 0. And I want flight modes 3, 4, and 5 to use trims from 3. You could set 0 and 3 with instant trim, and that'll propagate across the modes. But I think that's as close as I can come to answering that question. It's for both of my sticks. Please, aileron's right stick goes left and rudder goes left. Can you help me? That sounds like you have two things on the same channel. So if I go here, let me, I've kind of bodged this thing up. Let me clear some of this stuff out. Let me just clear some of this stuff out here. Oh, that's wings. Oh, great. I'm messing up my flight simulator. All right, hold on. Let me pick something else. Something I don't care about. Okay, let's see. Here's a mix. So your question, you say it's for both of my sticks. If please, aileron's right stick goes left and rudder right goes left. Okay, so you have a reverse. So if you look at the mixer right now, if I bring the monitor up and I go right with my aileron, you see how I'm moving the stick right and my aileron is going right. Now, if I move it left, it's going left. If you have an output that's going the way opposite the way your stick, than what your stick is telling it to do, then you have to reverse it. So you press return, you press page right, you come over to that channel on your output screen, hit that little button and reverse it. Now, when I go into the monitor and I go right, you see how my mix still goes right, but my output goes left? That's how you reverse a servo. You do the same thing with your rudder. Paul Bear, so how do you bind to an RX when you don't know what the RX is, such as Potenzic or Husband? Guys, here, man. If you don't know what the RX is, I don't know how to help you. You have to know what your RX is. I can't tell you, you know what I'm saying? I can't tell you what to do about binding if you don't know what the RX is. You have to know that. But if you don't, if you do know the RX, you can come to the protocol page and take a look at the protocols and look. So if you say you've got a, what is it? A Potenzic, P-O-T-N. There you go. These are your options for Potenzic. You click on that and it'll tell you that you can use a Potenzic A20. That's it. That's all you can do. So if you have a Potensic A20, you can put the multi-module on Potensic and it should bind. You got to learn this protocol link though. You got to learn to go there and look at what's going on. If you don't know the make and model of your receiver, I can't help you. Why remove the curves you have applied in the model menu? Oh, that looks like a question for someone else. All right, Robert's on it. I haven't changed before. I haven't changed it before. I'm not sure how to use Companion. Midnight Maniac, you got to get the go to my website, go to RC Video Reviews on YouTube, and look at the beginner series. And there's tutorials on using Companion. So, how to upgrade firmware, how to use global functions, how to use logical switches, inputs, mixes, and outputs, how to set up dual rates, how to set up an RC plane, how to complete the start to finish airplane setup, how to use Companion. It's all there, man. You're going to have to go there and watch those videos. All right. How do you figure out the protocol? Can't find in radio. You're going to have to know from the receiver, man. Your receiver is going to have to know. I don't know how to tell you. I mean, you got to look at the receiver or the product spec sheet. There's got to be a way for you to find out what protocol your receiver is using. That's all I can tell you. Is there a video you have on multiplex? Not sure, Chris. When you say multiplex function, yeah, I think that's described in the mixer. There's a top to bottom mixers tab video, and the multiplex is described in there. All right. Let's see. Dennis, thank you. Dennis Schrammel, thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for your videos. Appreciate the help. Greetings from Germany. Thank you for the tip. Appreciate that, man. Very nice of you. Night Nav, on a mix screen in the multiplex field, I understand add, replace. What is multiply? Well, it multiplies. I mean, it takes what you do and it multiplies the output. So, and that's the other thing you can do too. Let me see if I can find it. There's a very good descriptor for all the functions. And I think I might have referred to it in the mixes. Let's see, OpenTx. There is a OpenTx University, and there's also, trying to find the site. There's a really good one out there. Well, I guess I'll use oh, here it is. OpenTXU.org. I think that's the one. Give me just a second. If this is the place, I'll bring it up. Here we go. Let me, I'm looking real quick. I'm scanning this page to see if it offers the right. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. I found it. Browser. So you can see right here, multiply is a result of the lines above it. So there you go. And special functions will just add a switch, which you can do right in the mixer as an override to your throttle stick. And special functions will just add a switch, which you can do right in the mixer as an override to your throttle stick. Yeah, I think, yeah, I guess you can, yeah, I don't see any reason why you couldn't go in the mixer and just do an override. I guess that would work. I'm trying to think why it wouldn't. I can't come up with one. When will this finish? We're getting close, man. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the questions. When I get to the bottom of the questions and no one's asking anything, then I wrap it up. So TX16S questions, if you get to me, Windy Buns, go ahead and hit it, man. You got to put it in there. You got to jump in, or you just got to jump in. A 3D flying plane will be able to hang. Yep. Okay, good. Is there an auto search function if you don't know protocol? No, you just go to that. You go to that link that I told you. No, on the radio, no, there is not an auto search. You got to know the protocol. You have to know the protocol. You have to set it to the protocol. Okay, we're getting into a curves question. On the way to find the protocol need to bind it is take a picture of the plane, post it in DYA and PM thread and RC groups. They'll know. Yeah, that's good advice, Jim. RC groups. What should I use a momentary switch for? Oh man, what can't you use a momentary switch for? I love momentary switches. They can be used for edge switches, sticky switches, instant trim, trainer mode. There's all kinds of reasons to use a momentary switch. I did a video where we did an arm then execute. So for example, if you wanted to, you could set up a configuration on your 6-position switches where you have all these buttons up top. And if you don't remember what your flight mode is, you can say, well, I'm going to press this one or this one or this one. And then when you get to the one you want, you can use the T5 switch as a momentary and click up, and then it activates. So that's a really cool little feature. There's all kinds of reasons for momentary switches. You just got to be creative. Is there an alternative to Wing Sim? No, Wing Sim is the best. If you want to fly FPV, it's $36. Spend the money. I know that's a lot. Ask if you're under the age of 18 or don't have a job. Ask mom and dad for some help, or do some chores and ask them to buy it for you. But it's totally worth it, man. It's a good piece of software. Windy Bun says, my model button moves left to right slightly and doesn't make the click sound. Any thoughts? Take the case off and make an adjustment to the screws that hold the plate under that model button. Just tighten them up a little bit. So that's generally what that is. Hubson 123D and a Potenzic indoor toy drone. My son ruined the transmitter. Yeah, 123D. Go to that protocol page and do a search. And on Potenzic, if you know it's Potenzic, there's only one protocol for Potenzic. So all you need to do is figure out how to bind on Potenzic, put it in bind mode and try. If it works, Yahtzee. If it doesn't, then it's a protocol that's not supported. I don't mean to sound glib about it, but that's what you're up against. All right, Brian says throttle override needs log to enable the up and down to arm after switch is selected. Throttle override needs log to enable the up and down to arm after switch. I'm not following you, Brian. Yeah, the edge function can turn any switch into a momentary. That's correct. Yep, that's correct. Zilla, I use mine for GPS return home. Yeah, that's a good one. Chicken switch, that's another good one. If you've got a auto level mode, you can use it for that. Trainer, if you're training a student, you can use it for that. There's lots of different things. Tom, yeah, I'll be doing some extra stuff on the T-Lite. I wanted to do another standalone thing. I didn't want that to get muddied up in this. So yeah, I'll be doing more on the T-Lite, but only one, maybe one. All right. Jim says, say to the T6 and T6, T2 momentaries work and at 3 positions on these near max. I'm not sure what you're asking me, Jim. Do I need a high-end PC to run it? You do need 12 dob on wings. Yeah, you need a little bit of a graphics card. I'm not saying it has to be high-end, and you might be able to run it with the graphics settings kind of low. There's an FPS tool on their website you can download and run it. And if you can get, 25 to me is bare minimum. I think if you can get at least 25, you'll probably be okay. Midnight Maniac says, my controller goes left when I pull right and left goes left on aileron and rudder. Also when it's the middle stick, it just says going one way. Any fix? Hop on Discord, man. Midnight Maniac. We covered this already in terms of reversing a servo. So get on Discord and we'll walk you through it. We'll figure it out. All right. Say to the T5 and T6, T2 momentaries work in all 3 positions on these new Max and other miniature radios above. I don't know about the miniatures, but yeah, this is something one of our subscribers found out, that on the Radio Master trim switches, they go up and down and in. So I did a video on that. It's the Lasersby hack. If you search for that, you'll find it. But yeah, you can get 6 more momentary switches out of these 2. So I have a hard time finding a receiver protocol page you're talking about. Oyvind, if you look in the description, it's in there. If you look in the description for this video, it's in there. But I will bring it up real quick and leave it up so you guys can see it. The multi-protocol, there we go. I'll flip back over and I'll put the browser up so you can see it. Here is the protocol page. And again, this is in the description of the video. All right. I think I will stick to DRL in my free stuff. Yeah, I understand, man. I get that. Yeah, if you can try it someday, it's a lot of fun. Very good simulator. That's why you don't do it in the mixer, but on special functions. One of the first things I did from your early videos, boss. Yeah. Yeah, special functions make a lot of sense. They're a good place to do things. No question about it. Sean, thank you for the tip. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks for hitting that tip jar. Yeah, and hey, just a reminder, guys, if your budget allows and you want to help support the channel, patreon.com/RC Video Reviews. And while we're on that subject, I just want to say thanks to all the existing patrons. You guys are helping me shoulder the financial burden of the channel, so I appreciate that. And Sean, guys like you, leave a little tip in the tip jar. I appreciate that as well. Thank you very much. That helps, you know, every little bit helps, so I appreciate it. All right. 12 Dobbs says, can you make small tweaks to rates not using a switch for a preset number? Yes, you can. In fact, I did a video on using global variables for a tuner setup. Go look that up. Go look up the tuner. Here, I'll see if I can find it. It seems like it's easier maybe if I just find these things. But you guys got to get familiar with my playlists. I'm going to start doing playlists. That's going to be my aunt Robert. I know Robert's if he hasn't watched them all, it's because he knows the material, and the ones he doesn't know, he watches. So I'm going to start counting on Robert to be the enforcer here. But let's see. The question was tweaks to race. So you need the tuner. You need the tuner setup. Let me see the tuner setup video. That's the one you're looking for. Here we go. Yeah, the tuner setup video is actually really cool because it teaches you how to use your slider to do dynamic everything. So you can do dynamic expo, dynamic weights, the whole deal. So go look on the channel for this, the tuner setup video, Easy RC Plane Maidens, Radio Master TXC. This is in the intermediate series. So make sure you go check this out. And guys, if you haven't been to my, to the RC Video Reviews home channel, go click on the playlist button and they're all three right here. Snippets, the intermediate and advanced, and the beginner. So if you click on these, I keep doing the same thing. Sorry, I keep doing the same thing. You got to click on the view full playlist. When you do that, look at all these things. Just go through there and search. You'll be amazed. I cover a great deal of material on OpenTx. A lot of it is in there. So Pete, thank you. That's very nice. ZAR35, great class, learning a lot as we go along. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Robert, good job. I'm gonna leave Robert to it. Chris, love dynamic rates. Yeah, that's a good one. That was a good challenge, actually. We had one of the guys on the channel said, hey, can you adjust rates depending on the throttle position? Oh, I did it again. And I said, yes. And there's one called dynamic, and it's a, oh, this stupid thing is killing me. I don't know how I managed to do that. I keep pressing the instead of the view playlist button, I keep pressing the video button. So here, advanced, view full. There we go. Dynamic. This one, dynamic dual rates. If you guys want to, that's a cool video because that lets you change your rates depending on what the plane is doing and where your throttle is. So that's a really good one. So if you like stuff like that, that's a good video to watch. So Pete, thanks again. Very kind of you. Let's see. Potenzic 50, Potenzic 5A1. Okay, so Robert is still helping Paul Bear out with his radio. Can you bind two RX simultaneously to two RXs in one model? Yes, you can if you have an external module. So if you go look at the model setup, here, let me flip back over to the radio. Give me just a second. Okay. So if you go under model setup, you'll notice that you've got an internal RF right there, and mine is off right now, but there, I turned it on to multi. And then you also have an external RF right here. So you can turn that on if you have an external, like a XJT or Ghost or Crossfire or R9M or anything like that. You can turn that on and you can bind both your internal and your external simultaneously to a plane. Now the plane will have to have two receivers. I'm not aware of any receivers that will take two binds simultaneously. I know there are receivers that'll bind to more than one radio at one time. And you can also have more than one radio bind to the same receiver by using the same global identifier in your multi-protocol module firmware, there's a field called global ID. If you specify a global ID in that file and compile your own firmware, which I also have a video on how to do, you can compile your own multi-protocol module firmware and then distribute that firmware to your radios. You can have 2 different radios bind to the same receiver, one at a time, not simultaneously, but I could turn this radio on, fly a plane, land it, turn it off, turn the other radio on, fly the same plane without any changes. It's by using the same global ID. Okay. Let's see. Like your flight mode video. Yeah, that flight mode video, there's a lot of material in that flight mode video. So lots of stuff in there, and there's some advanced concepts in there. So yeah, definitely. And if you're new to OpenTx, I'd recommend starting with that beginner series. So if you go right to the advanced stuff, I'm not saying you can't do it, make yourself happy, but the advanced stuff it can get a little deep. I think if you start with the beginner stuff first, it'll help you establish the foundations that you'll need to follow along in the intermediate and advanced. And it does get a little crazy in the intermediate and advanced stuff. I'll admit that. But it's fun. It's fun to tinker with it. So, all right, John, where can we get the AI code needed to find the correct video to match the current question? Seems I waste a lot of time rewatching them. Yeah, right, Jim. I know. That's why I'm doing snippets, bro. That's why I'm doing them, man. I'm doing the snippet videos so I can carve up the topics. That's exactly why I'm doing it. All right. Yeah, Jim and John's playlist. There is a search window for the YouTube page. Yeah, that's the best thing. Jim is try and use, look at the description. But you're right, man. Some of these videos, the thing about it is I did a video one time where I said, okay, we're gonna connect the computer and pull the models and radios off the radio into companion. And one of the comments left behind was, how do I connect the radio to companion? So it's one of those kind of circular reference things. If I don't include it, then I get a comment saying, well, I don't understand what you're telling me to do because you didn't tell me how to connect to the computer. That's why, if you notice in the snippet videos, that's why, let me go back to this thing. That's why if you watch the snippet videos, I say, take your USB cable, your USB-C, it looks like this, and plug it in right here. That's why I do that, because the snippet videos are standalone. I'm trying to treat them as standalone. So if you watch them, you've probably seen me say that a dozen times at this point. But I do that because if I don't do it, then people say, well, I don't know how to connect to companion. So then you wind up in this situation where you wind up going down a rabbit hole. You say, okay, well, where do I stop explaining what to do? And that's why I broke the playlists up into beginner and intermediate and advanced. And if I produce more advanced stuff, I'll probably separate out intermediate and advanced, because at some point I have to make an assumption. Like if you're watching an advanced OpenTx video, I have to make an assumption that you know how to use companion, and that you know how to do your firmware, and you know how to install multi-protocol firmware. And if I don't make those assumptions, then when I get to an advanced topic, the video will be 2.5 hours long and no one will watch it. So, it's kind of one of those deals. I hope you understand that, but that's kind of the best you can do is maybe get yourself a logbook, Jim. All right. Let's see. Brian says, cheers. I'm heading toward the Crow Camber Reflex, but with a Spectrum A600, get it sorted out by summer. I've tried to bind with that What's Radio doesn't work, thinking it won't work with the radio as well as Hubsan. Okay, that's off my first step in the 30-minute process. Okay, what elite divisions of World War II were there? A lot. And watch the video. You're watching my favorites list, aren't you? Are new protocols ever put into the radio or place to add any? Paul, yes, they do add new protocols to the radio, and that all occurs with NPM firmware updates. So they'll add protocols. So yes. And Tom, yeah, you're right. Snippets are the way to go. I'm trying to treat snippets as like the 3 to 4 minute thing, and I'm not assuming anything. So to me, it's like they're like a Seinfeld episode, right? There's no prior requirement or future requirement. They're just standalone, you know, they'll stand on their own. You don't need to know anything ahead of time, and you don't need to know anything for the future. Have you heard of FreeSky Archer will ever make it to the? No, probably not, Tom. Well, okay, so Tom, I don't know. You probably don't realize you're poking the bear right now, because the whole thing with FreeSky and encryption and access, that gets my blood pressure up, man. So I don't expect Archer will ever show up on the NPM, because they're using access, which is encrypted. And that's why I left FreeSky, because I don't appreciate what they did there. All right. Chris says, if a switch is set to global setting, can you program an individual model to use that switch for a different function just for that model? No. If you have if you're, well, okay, hold on, back up. You can, if in the model setup you ignore global functions, but if you have global functions enabled and you use a switch for something, that switch will always do that thing. And you can't turn that off. But the switch can also do another thing. So here's an example. Let me show you. Let me show you. I'm going to go into global functions and, sorry, system. So in global functions, okay, look, I have SH up to set a timer, set timer 1, and I'm going to set it to, I don't know, we'll set it to 5 minutes and 34 seconds, and I'm going to turn that on, okay? And you also know that SH forward on me is a throttle lock. So that disables my throttle lock. So if I hit page right, I should have went left. If I hit page right, oh, I don't have that enabled on this one. All right, let me enable it real fast. All right, so SF17, I'm going to do SH forward and override channel 3. And I'm going to set a value of -100, and I'm going to turn it on. Okay. Now, if I watch my channel monitor and I hit SH forward, you see how channel 3 is overridden to -100? So it doesn't matter what I do with the stick. Channel 3's output stays at -100 because that's a lock. But if I go back to my main screen where I don't have a clock set up, hold on, I don't have a clock set up. Give me a second. Be patient. I'm working on it. There's the timer. Timer 1. Okay. And I probably don't have global functions turned on. I reckon I probably turned that off to show you guys. Let me see. Global functions. Extended. Where is it? Display checklist. Use global functions. SH. Okay. All right. Global functions. Set timer 1 0534. There you go, 0534. So 0534 is set, but my throttle is also unlocked. Okay. So you can have the same switch do different things, but you can't, it doesn't override. I don't know if that makes sense or not, Chris. But if a switch is set to global setting, can you program an individual model to use that switch for a different function just for that model? Yeah, that's what I just showed you. So I'm using SH as a global function to set my timer to 5 minutes and 34 seconds. But on this model, it also unlocks the throttle. So there you go. Have you ever updated multi-protocol? Robert, I guess you're still helping out. That's cool. When is the Wing Sim live on? It's Wednesday nights, 1900 Eastern. I don't like access either. Glad I got the TX16S. Good choice. You made a good choice. I've updated the multi-module. It's like updating an R9. Yeah, it's real simple. You just put the firmware on and flash it right from inside the radio. No problem. What is D8 and D16? Pete, good questions. Those are protocols that FreeSky came out with. So D8's a little bit older. D16's a little bit newer. And they just added functionality like telemetry and sensors and stuff like that. So the older FreeSky receivers like the V8R, for example, that's a D8 receiver, and the X8R is a D16 receiver. L9R is an L12 receiver. So those refer to protocols by FreeSky. Chris doesn't even remember what he was using before the TX16S. Yeah, I was using the Tyrannus, so still OpenTx. For those of you wanting to download Wings, run the test to see. Yes, definitely run the test first. Don't buy it until you run the test. You might be surprised. What's the R9 module? That is a long distance it's a 900 megahertz long distance module by FreeSky. Let's see. Cheap equivalent of Crossfire. Yeah, if you're going to do range, man, I love that Crossfire. That's a good. Not that I fly range, but I got a great radio connection all the way up to the tree line. So, all right. Yeah, Oscar says, what about forward programming to set up AS3X function on DSMX? I don't believe it's supported. I thought that it was going to be in Spectrum. I know there is something. Hold on a second. Let me back out of this for a second. And under tools, oh, how about that? I stand corrected. Right there, DSM forward programming. There you go. All right. Let's see. Questions. Oscar, I tried using the DSM forward programming Lua script with my A, and it's pretty buggy. Okay. Yeah. Lua can be pretty buggy. You never know what you're going to get with Lua. I've programmed in Lua. It's tricky. Digger says, I need the throttle on S1, SF forward increase to a value, and then both sticks need to increase the speed from that value. Yeah, that's too much for today, Diggers. If you want to do the throttle on S1, I kind of showed that earlier. I don't remember which one. I've been in so many models so far today. Yep, it's not that one. But if you want the throttle to be on S1, you pick the channel where your throttle is connected and change the source to S1. So real easy to do that. And then if you want to increase to a value and then both sticks need to increase the speed from that value, yeah, that's too much for me to work on today. That's exactly the scenario that I don't want to get into on a live stream. How do you get Lua scripts? Should be problems. 12 Dobbs learning. There is a video on how to get the Lua script for telemetry, but Lua scripts, the basic ones like on the system screen, they come with the radio and they also come with the SD card contents. So I will show you that. Let's see. One second, I've got cables in the way here. OpenTx downloads. Oh, you know what? That's not on OpenTx. That is on the firmware page. That's where that is. Hold on just a moment. Yeah, the Lua scripts are, let me switch over to the browser real quick. Yeah, see right here where it says Lua scripts? So the tools for multi-protocol are there. Any other tools that you need will be under OpenTx downloads in the SD card contents. So if you go to OpenTx downloads, click 2310, come down here to SD card contents, pick your radio, 16S, this one. We'll let that download. But yeah, you'll get the basic ones, like the Spectrum Analyzer, the Gropner Hot, the Crossfire configuration, DSM or the multi-channel namer, that kind of stuff will be, well, maybe the multi-channel namer might actually be in the multi-protocol module. But anyway, most of them will be in this zip file, the SD card contents. Oh man, that download speed's heinous. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, anyway, the rest of them will be in the SD card contents. So that's that. All right. John, this was great. Can you consider doing one of these live streams to go over FPV 101 things like wire? Yeah, Jim, let's Discord, man. Let's talk about it. Yeah, I can do that. We can do that. If you update the multi-mod, it gives you L9R. No real need for R9 if you fly planes. Yeah, I like that L9R. No telemetry on L9R, though. Just be aware of that. And it's actually, when you bind, it's called L12. But yeah, L9R, that's a good protocol. I was flying that, like a mile and a half, 2 miles in Arizona way back when. No problem. Before I ever got my first Dragon Link. All right. Can you do the iNav setup or post a link to your vid if done before? Matt, playlists. Go to playlists. You guys got to go to the playlist. But yeah, man, I've done lots of iNav stuff on the channel, that's for sure. Let's see, YouTube. Here, let me show you guys something else too. Maybe this will help. If you go to my channel, you see this little magnifying glass right here? Can you guys all see that? It says home, videos, playlist, community, channels, about. You see this little thing? If you can't see it, you might have to hit this arrow. But if you click on that, when you click on that, that'll search just my channel. Of course, now it's not working because we're on a live stream. Yeah, that's funny. It's not working, of course. But yeah, if you click on this thing, I don't know what's going on here. It's not letting me click on it. But if you normally, when you click on that magnifying glass, it'll bring up a search bar that will let you search my channel. So if you use that, you'll just search my stuff. So if you go to my videos, for example, and click this, you can type iNav and you'll see the iNav stuff that I've done. I've done quite a bit of iNav. I've done an in-flight tuning. I did a live stream on how to set up the tuner configuration. I posted my OpenTx configuration and my iNav diff file. So yeah, I've got a lot of iNav material on the channel. So yeah, just use this little thing. Mine's not working. I don't know. I have to reboot the, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's because I'm in incognito mode and it wants to set a cookie. I don't know. But yeah, go to the channel and watch the videos, man. I've done a lot of iNav stuff. You have to start the buying process to get to the tester. Okay. No, you don't. No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think you're right. But just download it. Don't hit go. Just download it and try that tester. You're talking about Wing Sim. All right. Yeah, Jim. Yeah, it's probably Jim's fault. Yeah, we let Jim to get too close to the search window and it's broke. Does it work for anybody else? I don't know. Maybe it's because I think it's I don't know why. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. I'm not going to download the SD card contents. I'll see if I can get in here now. Let's see. YouTube/RC video reviews. I don't know, man. It's not working at all. What the heck? It's broke. Jim? Jim used up my search quota for the month, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, that magnifying glass normally does it. All right. Yeah, we found you out, Jim. That's right. It's not working on any channel at the moment. Okay, maybe a bug in YouTube. All right. All right, guys. Hey, listen, what time did we start today? We started at 1 o'clock. That's 2.5 straight hours without a single break. You know, when I did this, when I got ready for this live stream, whoops, don't go anywhere. When I got ready for this live stream, I didn't even set up the break screen because I didn't think this was going to go this long, man. You guys, this has been, wow. Yeah, it's been 2.5 hours. What the hell? You guys had a lot of questions. Man, there's some pent up demand for OpenTx. I'll tell you what. May it close the channel is live? No, I don't think so. I don't think it should matter if the channel's live or not. Maybe it does. I don't know. I've never tried it. But yeah, I think that's it. Couldn't see the donate button. We'll check out your site. Thanks for your efforts. Whitney, appreciate that. Wasn't me, man. She was 18. I swear, wrong chat. That's funny. All right. Yeah, I think we're at the end. I'm seeing the end of the questions. We're getting a little punch crazy. So I think we can wrap it up here. I'll probably get on Discord in a little while. I know there were some more detailed questions. Get on Discord. We can spend a little more time. We don't have to worry as much about the pace. So we won't be tying other people up while we think about it. So definitely feel free to hop in and let's see, Discord Messenger. We got a question in Discord before I shut it down, Robert. Hold on 1 second. Oh, after. I see. Okay. I won't post it in the chat then. All right, fellas. Well, hey, thanks. I appreciate all the questions. For those of you guys, yes, 7 p.m. Wednesday Eastern time. That's correct. Don't forget to hop in there. So I appreciate you guys all hopping in and joining. Great questions. A lot of fun. Discord link is in the description of the video. It's always in the description of the video. Make sure you join us there. All right, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, hit subscribe. Tell your friends. Share the video. Leave a comment in the video after it's closed. All those interactions help. And don't forget to check out the latest poll on the community tab. There's some funny stuff going on there too. So How do we find you on same thing in the description, Pete? I always put my Discord, Patreon, and at least those two are always in the description. So, all right, fellas. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate all the kind comments. You all are very gracious. I appreciate you. And I love the live stream stuff too. It's a lot of fun to be able to interact with you guys and have you participate. That way we can make it a little bit more about you and less about me, which I like. So thanks, John Fitzpatrick. I appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Thanks for joining. Take it easy.